Imagine getting a letter that's from someone you care about, maybe a sibling, a close friend, and they're setting off on this, well, incredibly dangerous journey, right to the edge of the world. What would that letter even say? What kind of hopes, what fears, what thoughts would be swirling around as they looked out into, the vast unknown? That's exactly where we're headed today for our deep dive. We're stepping into the very first words of a true classic, a book that kicks off one of literature's most enduring stories. Our source today. It's just one document, but it's fascinating. The first letter from a man named R. Walton to his sister, Mrs. Seville, was dated December 11th, 17-something from St. Petersburg. And yes, this is the opening shot of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Now, our mission isn't to spoil the big story that follows. Not at all. It's really to get inside this initial letter, understand the writer, Walton, what's driving him, what's his big idea, and maybe uncover the human desires bubbling underneath it all, using just his own words. What makes someone chase the unknown with that kind of, well, almost obsessive passion, even when the risks are just enormous?
It's such a brilliant place to start, isn't it? Because this letter, it's more than just, hi sis, doing okay. It's this incredible window into a mind just consumed by exploration and by science, yes, but also by this really powerful mix of romantic idealism. He's projecting this almost utopian vision onto this blank space on the map. Walton's voice, right from the start, it sets this tone: adventure, huge ambition, and an optimism that frankly feels a little bit reckless, considering where he's going, into the completely uncharted. It's a powerful intro to a character whose belief, whose sheer will really shapes everything that comes after.
Okay, let's dive into those words then. So right away, he wants his sister and us really to know he's committed. He's already in St. Petersburg, far north of London, he says. And he starts by trying to calm her down about his enterprise, despite her evil forebodings. Then he describes feeling this almost ecstatic joy from a cold northern breeze. He says it braces my nerves and fills me with delight. It's like the harshness itself is fuel for him.
That's such a key observation. It tells you so much about his mindset right off the bat. He's not just putting up with the cold, he's actively drawing delight and inspiration from it. He literally calls this breeze a wind of promise, coming from the very place he wants to reach. So this journey, for him, it isn't just physical, it's deeply psychological. He's framing it, positioning it as something not just bearable, but actually desirable. Like the hardship confirms he's on the right path. It's almost like he's reframing adversity as destiny.
And then this is where it gets really wild for me, how he talks about the North Pole itself. He just completely rejects the idea of it being, frost and desolation. No, instead he paints this picture, a region of beauty and delight, where the sun is forever visible, its broad disk just skirting the horizon and creating this perpetual splendor. He even suggests that snow and frost are banished there. He imagines sailing over a calm sea to a land that surpasses in wonders and beauty every other place discovered. He talks about amazing productions, features without example. It sounds less like science and more like, well, like a myth he's telling himself.
It really does, and
Yes.
that makes you ask, right, what kind of thinking leads to that? Projecting this idealized, almost heavenly vision onto what everyone else knows is a deadly unknown place. He's not just guessing, he's sneaking it. This deep-seated belief in a kind of Arctic paradise, this eternal light, it's absolutely core to understanding what pushes him forward. It's almost a kind of, well, a necessary self-delusion, maybe, if you're going to attempt something that seems impossible. In the Romantic era, that wasn't uncommon. Projecting these grand visions onto blank spaces on the map, it reframed danger as destiny. And Walton just embodies this. He turns the brutal Arctic into a canvas for his dreams. It makes the whole dangerous quest seem mentally manageable, I suppose. It's science mixed with some very personal wishful thinking.
Okay, so beyond this almost dreamlike picture of the pole, what's the bigger goal here? He's obviously not just after nice views or a permanent sunset. He clearly says he wants to discover the wondrous power which attracts the needle, magnetism we'd call it, and also regulate 1,000 celestial observations. Basically solve mysteries about how the universe works, things that need this voyage to make sense.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how layered his motivation is. It's partly pure science, understanding fundamental forces, the mechanics of the cosmos, but it's also, undeniably, the thrill of being first. He says he wants to satiate my ardent curiosity, to see a part of the world never before visited, to tread a land never before imprinted by the foot of man. So yeah, it's pushing knowledge forward, but it's also about pushing himself forward. Personal achievement, that ardent curiosity feels very personal, very deeply felt. It's not just abstract knowledge he's after.
That personal drive is definitely there. But what about the altruism? He talks a lot about conferring this inestimable benefit on all mankind to the last generation. He thinks he can do this by finding a passage near the pole to link countries faster, or by figuring out the secret of the magnet. He believes only his kind of undertaking can achieve this. Does that feel totally genuine, or is it partly justification?
That's a really good question. Because look, finding a Northwest Passage or a polar route, that was a real thing people were after then. Huge economic potential, strategic value, so it was a legitimate goal. And understanding magnetism better, also very practical for navigation. But you see how neatly it aligns with his personal quest for glory, right? He frames himself as this great benefactor. And having that sense of purpose, that steady purpose, as he puts it, a point on which the soul may fix its intellectual eye, it calms his mind. It gives him an anchor, a kind of moral justification for his own massive ambition. I don't think it's necessarily fake, but it definitely shows how, personal drive and the greater good can get tangled up in these big quests.
And he tells us this whole expedition has been the favorite dream of my early years. He remembers reading with ardor all the accounts of voyages trying to get to the North Pacific through the polar seas. Apparently, his Uncle Thomas's whole library was just books about discovery voyages. Sounds like he basically grew up breathing this stuff.
Absolutely. And that tells you a lot about those early influences. He admits his formal schooling was neglected, right? But he devoured these books, even though his father, on his deathbed, apparently told the uncle not to let him go to sea. So there's this deep-seated, almost rebellious passion there. It really shows how being exposed early on to these stories, these tales of adventure and pushing frontiers, can just completely shape your life's path. Against all advice sometimes, he was practically marinated in these narratives.
Right. But even with that lifelong passion, he took a bit of a detour, didn't he? Tried being a poet for a year, dreamed of being up there with Homer and Shakespeare. But after that failure, as he calls it, and then inheriting money from a cousin, his thoughts just snapped right back to exploration.
Yeah.
So how did he actually get ready over those 6 years? It wasn't just reading anymore, was it?
Oh, not at all. This is crucial. It wasn't just dreaming in an armchair. His preparation was incredibly tough, really practical, speaks volumes about his determination. He says, he commenced by inuring my body to hardship. What does that mean? He literally went with whale fishers on trips to the North Sea, willingly endured cold, famine, thirst, and want of sleep. Yeah. He says he often worked harder than the common sailors all day, and then at night. He studied mathematics, medicine, physical sciences, everything a naval adventurer would need. Yeah. He even hired himself out twice as an undermate on a Greenland whaler. Did so well, the captain apparently admired him greatly, offered him the second-in-command spot. So this commitment, it's this amazing blend of physical toughness and intellectual work. He's not just a dreamer. He's definitely a doer.
Okay, but even with all that intense prep and this huge, almost unreal vision he has, he admits something quite vulnerable to his sister. He says, my hopes fluctuate and my spirits are often depressed. He knows this long and difficult voyage is going to demand all my fortitude and that he won't just have to keep his own spirits up, but sometimes sustain everyone else's when theirs are failing. That feels like a really profound admission, doesn't it? He sees the weight he's carrying.
It's absolutely crucial, really human detail. Underneath all the bravado, the grand scientific aims, there's this real vulnerability. You can feel it. He gets the massive psychological toll of leading people in those kinds of conditions. He understands the loneliness, holding on to this huge vision when everyone else might be breaking down. So yeah, it's not just about science or geography. It's this deep, deep test of the human spirit. Endurance, resilience, both physical and emotional. It makes him much more relatable, I think. His ambition feels more grounded in a real person.
And he makes a point of saying his life might have been passed in ease and luxury. He had the money, but he preferred glory to every enticement that wealth placed in my path. It's a very deliberate choice he's emphasizing.
Yeah.
And he feels he deserves to accomplish some great purpose.
It wasn't an accident he ended up here. He chose this path. Exactly. It underlines that this wasn't just drifting into adventure. It was a conscious sacrifice. He weighed the options. Comfort, luxury versus glory, purpose. And he picked the harder path. He really believes in the rightness, the inevitability almost of his mission succeeding. His conviction seems rock solid, even when he admits to feeling anxious. It's almost like he's convincing himself, as much as his sister, that the goal is so vital, so important, it justifies absolutely everything. It's like a moral duty he can't possibly ignore.
So, okay, back to the present moment in the letter. He's in Russia, says it's the most favorable period for traveling, enjoying riding in sledges over the snow. Yeah. Practical details. He plans to head to Archangel in maybe 2 or 3 weeks. That's where he'll hire a ship, get sailors used to whaling, but he won't actually set sail until June, which sounds very logical, very grounded in the realities of Arctic travel. right up until that last chilling question he asks her.
Yeah, those practicalities are important. They ground the grand dream in actual steps. Hiring the right ship, experienced crew, waiting for the summer thaw in June. It shows he's not completely lost in fantasy. He understands the real-world challenges. He even notes the difference between, pacing the deck to stay warm versus sitting still for hours while the blood is actually freezing in your veins. That stark physical reality is there. It sits right alongside his more utopian descriptions. It shows he knows, at some level, the physical toll involved.
And then he drops that question on his sister. It's so direct. When shall I return? And he gives her just two options. It really pulls you up short. If I succeed, many, many months, perhaps years will pass before you and I may meet. If I fail, you will see me again soon or never. Wow, just lays it bare.
That's it, isn't it? The moment all the idealism gets stripped away, it's pure acknowledgement of the life or death stakes. It shows the immense personal sacrifice, the huge gamble he's taking, not just with his own life, but you have to think about his sister, her peace of mind, her future waiting for news. It just perfectly encapsulates the kind of total commitment this kind of dream demands. And the isolation he's choosing, it's the ultimate statement, really, laying out the ultimate price for chasing something so extraordinary.
So we've traveled through just this one letter today, met R. Walton. A man pushed by this almost impossible dream, right? Armed with a scientific question, this highly romanticized idea of the unknown, and a will just forged like iron through years of hardship. We've heard his doubts, his hopes, and that absolutely unwavering sense of purpose. Chasing glory, he says, for himself, yes, but also for all of humankind.
What's so powerful, I think, is how much this single letter captures that universal human thing, that drive to discover. That complex mix of brains, bravery, and maybe, sometimes a bit of necessary self-deception you need to push past the known edges. It forces you to ask, what is the real cost of ambition like that? And what is it about the unknown that can pull someone so strongly it overcomes even the most basic fear of death? Walton's journey is just starting here, but these first words, they set such a profound stage, geographically and psychologically.
So your takeaway from this deep dive, Walton's letter, it's not just some old piece of writing or just the opening chapter of a famous book. It's this incredibly deep look at human ambition, that magnetic pull of the unknown, and the huge personal price you might pay to chase a dream against truly monumental odds. And maybe something to think about as you go about your day. What regions of beauty and delight might you be imagining in your own life, even if other people only see the frost and desolation? What unknown wonders might you feel compelled to explore? And what are you really willing to sacrifice to get there?